By the time Custer digs in up here, we've got Calhoun being overrun from the south. Calhoun is crushed. I told you how C Company charged down the ridge about 600 yards out in front of us. C Company is going to charge down the ridge, trying to drive the Warriors back. The counterattack is the lame white man charge. He's killed coming up the hill. Most of the C Company troopers are unhorsed. They get on top of the ridge and sprint to the high ground. Crazy Horse is leaning in this direction now because of archaeological evidence and more Indian accounts. Crazy Horse crosses at the bottom of this trail called Deep Ravine, and you can see the cut down at the bottom. Crazy Horse crosses down there and pounds up the ridge about 400 yards to the south of us, and he's got 800 warriors behind him. Remember his vision, bullets and arrows can't harm him. He goes right over the top of the ridge and runs right into the teeth of Miles Keogh, the Fighting Irishman, Company I captain. Crazy Horse rides back and forth below the ridge line in front of Keogh, and 65 dismounted skirmishers volley fire at Crazy Horse, but they don't hit him. They reload a second time, volley fire at him again, they don't hit him. His inspiration and courage rally the other warriors. They pour over the top of the hill, smash into Keogh, and grind Keogh into gall, who's overrun Calhoun from the south. Of course, Keogh is crushed. His body found 3 days later, but unmutilated, because he had an Irish medallion, a Catholic medallion around his neck. He'd been a guard in the Pope's army in Europe. And so they don't touch him, they don't mutilate him, the theory goes. Also, his horse, Comanche, 7 battle wounds, will survive the fight and become known as the only survivor of the Custer fight. Never ridden again. The horse, I believe, lived 16 years after the battle. Regimental mascot, taken care of by a guy by the name of now it's going to slip me. Never mind, it's going to slip me. A guy takes care of him for all that 16-year period. And then at the Wounded Knee debacle, which the 7th Cavalry is at and participates in 1890, December of 1890, Augustus Corn, who was taking care of Comanche for all these years, Corn is killed at the Battle of Wounded Knee. The horse goes into a depression and dies shortly thereafter. That horse is in Lawrence, Kansas today. Keogh's crushed. Calhoun is destroyed. Custer digs in. He looks to the south. Where's Benteen and the packs? Not going to come. Warriors pick up guns off the Calhoun dead, Reno dead, turn them on Custer Hill. Two Moon said we swirled around the soldiers like water around a stone. Gunfire, smoke, yelling, screaming, cursing. The sky on top of this ridge is raining arrows. Warriors getting closer and closer, bound and determined to destroy the soldier command. Gall said the soldiers were fighting good. They were loading and firing and loading and firing, but then they threw their carbines away and took out their little guns and tried to kill us. But they shot wildly in the skies. Their horses bucked and shied and pulled them all around. Orders given, shoot your horse. Boom! A bullet in your horse's head. Now, you're not going home. There's nowhere to run to. There's nowhere to hide. 39 dead horses found on this crest after the fight. Warriors get closer and closer, and then the shots quit coming. Young boys and old men mounted in the draws and the ravines stormed the hill on horseback, rode right into the crowd, pounded the soldiers to death with war clubs. Then they roared down to meet Reno and Benteen, slammed into them after they'd made a feeble effort to advance to the sound of the gunfire, drove them back, pinned them down, trapped them for the next 24 hours, as we talked about, under siege. Reno, Benteen will save 350 men on Reno Hill. always ask myself when I'm up here, and I've been up here many times, sometimes 11 o'clock at night, I often ask myself, what was it like in the end? You look on that monument, there's a lot of Irish names on that monument. You're a kid from Ireland, you come over here because you're starving to death. You land New York City, you go through Ellis Island, the land of opportunity, and yet there's no opportunity for you because there's so much discrimination against Irish people that you can't get a job. Everywhere you go, Irish need not apply. So you join the army for $13 a month. There's a lot of German names on there too. Same thing, they're running away from war, the Prussian war. They get over here and they're back in the army. So what was it like for them? Many of them had never seen an Indian before this day. What was it like for them?
Thousands of miles from home.
Exactly.
Grew up in Ireland where it's wet.
Yep.
Near the ocean.
Yep.
Green.
And then you can...
Yep. And you know you're not going to see the sun go down. What was it like for Woodenleg, a Cheyenne warrior, 19 years old? He's fighting for everything he's got. His mother, his father, his sister, his brother, his uncle, his aunt. He's got it all on the line. He's fighting for everything, and he knows his lifestyle's going away. You know, you think about motivation. It turns out to be Americans fighting Americans. Is what it came down to, a clash of cultures, if you will. No winners, no losers, in the sense of keeping score, but it was a tremendous battle that ultimately marked the beginning of the end for the Sioux and the Cheyenne. Today, Custer was buried on this hill, right about where you're standing. They buried the men in shallow graves. It was a ghastly scene. Mutilated bodies, bloated beyond recognition in 100-degree heat. They bury these guys in shallow graves. A year later, Custer is disinterred from his grave along with his brother Tom and 11 other officers. Custer's taken back east, buried at West Point. If you did a DNA test today, it'd be interesting to see if it's really him, because a year later when they came out here, it was just bodies strewn, bones by then, strewn all over the battlefield. There was some real doubt as to whether it was him. In fact, Mike Sheridan, Phil Sheridan's brother, Captain Mike Sheridan, who was responsible for the burial detail, they brought him several different sets of bones, and they were doubtful, and he said, well, it doesn't really matter because it's what the public will believe. And they took a box back and buried it. Libby Custer's buried there today. She knows whether it's him or not. The enlisted men were left on the battlefield, marked with sticks, taken out of the village. 5 years later, what could be found was scraped up off the battlefield, all the enlisted men. A mass grave was dug, monument placed, and now they lie today, 220 soldiers beneath this mass grave. The markers, the marble markers, were brought out in 1890, so we're talking, what, 14 years after the battle. So they are approximations of where men fell, graves, that kind of thing. There's more markers on the battlefield than there were dead soldiers, kind of a government operation. Okay, but millions of people have come here over the course of time, stood right where we're standing today. Millions of people, and it's a spiritual place, as I said. I've been up here at 11 o'clock at night when the moon is so full you can read the names off the monument. Now, I've never seen a ghost, but it's a spiritual place. There's a tranquility that exists today, but you don't have to go far to encounter the violent rage that it was. The Indian Memorial, dedicated in 2003, I'd encourage you to walk through that. And what that's done, it's interesting. I've been coming here for about 25 years, and for years there was a subtle anger here. There was a bitterness here. not just between Native Americans and white people, but there was just an edginess, an undercurrent of upheaval. The Indian Memorial, dedicated in 2003, indirectly had a healing impact on all of this. When people come here today, they're not so much looking for resolution as they're looking for understanding. And it's changed the environment here a lot in that way, a lot. So.